This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Onyx Hunt, Marshwear Clothing, Walton's, Aluma Trailers, GAIM Virtual Shooting Simulators, Aberdeen, South Dakota, Compeer Home, and by Hoksey Native Seeds. Speaking of Hoksey Native Seeds, the boys from Hoksey are in the house today, which means we're all in for a real treat. Nicolas Lirio and Kent Boucher, Boucher, as I say, Sig Boucher.
That's right.
That's the correct way.
That is the correct way. They are my guests.
For the next 2 hours, I'm Sig.
You are Sig Boucher. We'll dig into a variety of topics today, discussing the land, our role in it, our quality of life, CRP, native seeds, pollinators, volunteering, mentoring. Oh, gosh, and we'll certainly solve all the world's problems as well. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. Big Al is our producer. This is an audio podcast. This is also a video podcast. If you're listening and you want to watch, you can head to The Flush on YouTube and you will find a podcast tab. Then you can tune in video podcast. Are you guys video podcasters?
Just starting.
Yeah. We do mostly reels, but I think is there a place somewhere where our full lengths live?
Yeah, Hoksey Native Seeds. We're just starting to post them up. Hoksey Native Seeds on YouTube. Yeah.
All right, Kent, hit us with the jingle.
Do-do-do-do-do.
That's the Coffee Time Wednesday jingle. It just dropped, and I was listening on my way in this morning as you guys were driving up from Iowa. What time did you get up this morning?
I set my alarm for 4:15, and I woke up at 4:13. It's one of those days.
Really?
I set my alarm for 4:05, and I woke up at 4:31.
That is the voice of Nicolas Lirio, the host, and then Kent Boucher, the co-host. How do you guys announce each other?
So I call myself the host. Truly, we're both co-hosts, and it's just me being facetious because the whole podcast was Kent's idea to begin with.
So
He's just dunking on me every episode.
So the Prairie Farm Podcast, that's what we're speaking about here.
Yep.
Hoksey Native Seeds, that's where you guys originate down in Iowa.
Yep.
You have graced us with your presence. This is our third time now that you've been up here?
I think so.
Yeah.
You guys travel up here, and I can't tell you how much I enjoy that.
That's a good time.
It means a lot that you invest and care that much about it, but it also speaks to the quality of your production, because I believe right now that your podcast is my favorite podcast.
Wow.
Thanks.
Currently in my
That's
list of
humbling.
podcasts to listen to, every time it comes out, I click on it right away. The only thing, though, is that the Minnesota Wild are currently in the playoffs as we record this, and there are some other podcasts that I'm totally into right now because there's nothing like playoff hockey.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully by the time they listen to this, they're still in the playoffs.
I know. So we're actually recording a couple of days, almost a week before this is going to air, which we don't normally do. We normally record the same week, but we've been doing this dog training series. And which, by the way, thank you for those that have listened and have commented on it and sent me further questions. I've tried to answer some. There's a few still lingering and some that I think belong in the dog trainer's hands, not necessarily mine. But our hope in this series is that you can go back to it when you have a puppy. You can go back to it when you have a 6-month-old. You can go back to it when you're introducing a dog to birds for the first time. You can go back to it when you're trying to figure out the right place to take your dog to go for those first runs and how to set it up. So that is our goal with that series. Thank you for allowing us to take basically a month. Al, well done.
Thank
on
you.
the video
Thank
side of it. You're rock and rolling. I feel out of place right now because I haven't sat down in the roost here
It's been a while.
it's been
almost a month.
minute. Yeah. More than
Really?
that.
Yeah.
It's been more than that. Yeah, because we were down at the Horse and Hunt Club filming and recording, and we've been on the road. My voice isn't what it should be. And back to hockey. So, I might have a little bit of a bender here. And I have to admit, it all started because I scored some tickets to the first home playoff game.
Oh, man.
I took my brother, and the place was rocking. Minnesota is the state of hockey.
Yes,
and the
it is.
Wild are in it. Hopefully, as this airs, they're still in it. But I lost my voice because I got into the game pretty good with my bro. We had great seats. The place was rocking. We're screaming. Fans are going nuts. And the next day I wake up and I'm like, what did I just do?
He came to work the next day. I was like, how's the game? He's like, oh, it's really good.
So I'm drinking tea here. This is tea. And here's why this was bad. Hold on. It's to the soul. Here's why this is bad.
3,000
so
degrees
I've been
right
on
there.
also a speaking bender. For some reason, they all kind of lined up together. So I have the next day I have to speak, and I'm emceeing my hometown. There's a Waconia Lions Club, and for 41 years they have hosted a wild game dinner. Estimated attendance at this year's dinner was 900 people.
Whoa.
We rent out the fairgrounds in Carver County.
That's crazy.
It has grown over and it's grown. And I've emceed it now for, I think, the last 4 or 5 years. But I basically talk for 2.5 hours straight up there.
That's
so by the
crazy.
end of it, I go into it without a voice. I come out of it without a voice. Last night, I have to give a message at a Pheasants Forever event. It's a private dinner that was held, and it was a great night. But I go into it, and I still don't have my voice back. And on top of it, the allergies are kicking in right now.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm just running at like 30%, guys.
Yeah.
I'm being honest. I'm not me right now. I'm not me. But I've gotten a lot of good. It's been productive. It's been good. And I've got some information that I think we'll dig into here.
Yeah.
Based
Your
on some
30%
feedback.
hosting is going to be better than
better
most
than us.
hosting that we
Yeah.
hear. Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
I got to
guys.
ask you a question though, for the benefit of your listeners. So first of all, it's something I've observed about hockey that is so interesting to me is there's like an iron curtain to hockey, right? It doesn't exist south of Minnesota. I mean,
That's true.
People aren't aware of it. They
Maybe
don't.
Florida, but yeah, other than that.
I mean, it's just like it.
What
but-
do you
but
play?
here it's
What do you
huge.
play in Iowa? What do you do down there?
I think
Football?
we do FFA donkey basketball, something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say like pig showing. We're really good at pig showing.
No, wrestling. I bet wrestling would be said to be.
Yeah. There you
And
go.
also I don't know if it still is, but Iowa's known for its gymnasts. A lot of Olympic gymnasts came through.
Sure.
Some, I don't think it was necessarily the University of Iowa, but I think there was just a really, well-known instructor based in Iowa, where a lot of those athletes would come through there.
Fun fact, Kent used to be a gymnast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Serious?
No.
He was-
The only guy to ever break the bounce beat.
All right. So this is so funny because hockey, and especially playoff hockey, the intensity is just, oh my goodness, it's too much. It's too
I was
much.
going to ask you.
My heart might not make it. Part of me wants our team to get taken out because I don't know that I can survive it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to ask you. So this always happens to me when I get so I'm a football fan. So I follow the NFL pretty well. But like baseball, basketball, hockey, I don't follow it unless I take like an interest once you get to like playoffs or even in like, I grew up in Illinois in the 90s. So I was always a big Bulls fan come finals.
I'm so sorry.
I'd take interest. And then, of course, in 2016, the Cubs World Series. And so what ends up happening is this team that you kind of loosely follow throughout the year, you're watching every game, you're reading all the articles, and you come up with a favorite player in the playoffs I will have no idea who this is because I'm south of the Iron Curtain for hockey. But who is your current favorite Minnesota Wild player?
Ooh,
Oh gosh.
I'm sure this will mean something to your listeners.
don't
It's-
answer wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Matt Boldy is just on a heater right
Yeah,
now.
he is.
He is
Yes,
playing
he
out
is.
of his mind.
Yes, he
And
is.
he is scoring goals and he is literally willing the team to victory right alongside with his other forward on the same line, Kirill Kaprizov.
Kaprizov, is he the one in the international team?
He's from Russia.
Ah.
And he is amazing. He's been injured throughout the season. He came back just before the playoffs. He's playing at like 80%. His 80% is better than 95% of the other players on the ice. He is
Oh, man.
unbelievable. So we call him the Thrill around here. I might name my next dog after one of those two
Oh,
players.
that'd be good.
I'm serious.
That'd be a good dog
It's so
name.
funny though because so
Thrill.
like my brother and I would get into it, and a bunch of other people, and I mean everything that's happening. The thing about hockey is it doesn't stop; it goes, and the intensity. And so it's so funny. My brother and my wife and I we laugh about this all the time too. Here's this thing that rotates around on Twitter for years: how to fix soccer. The field is bleeping huge. Shrink it. Too many players on the field. Limit to 3 forwards, 2 defenders, and a goalie. Players should get to come in and out whenever they want. Don't stop the game. Shrink the goal. Ice everywhere.
I just want to say, you were talking about your family has this thing. My uncles right now, one they're both from Chicago,
Yeah.
but one's like, one lives in Minnesota, one lives in California. The one in Minnesota is like kind of rooting for the Wild. My other uncle hates the Wild. So like
What?
our other uncle, my
See a
uncle
black
that
Don't ever
lives-
talk to him again. You
My-
don't need that kind of
No, listen,
negativity in your life.
My uncle that lives in Minnesota was texting my other uncle. It kept saying "Go Wild" every time the game was on. So my uncle from California blocked his phone number whenever the game comes
I
on.
love it.
He would call my. He was calling my mom. I was standing next to her, and he's like, "Bill's evil. I don't want to talk to him. I blocked him during the game."
So in the state of hockey, we have a song, and it's just like classic, and it's like pond hockey, and it's so
Yeah.
vocal, man. And one of the lines is, "Our mother was the referee." Like it just, and I can't not think it because that's what it is when we're out on the pond. I mean, we
Yeah.
play, and it's just, oh gosh, I wish everybody could experience it because it's
I
such
just
a
can't.
fun.
I just don't understand how that culture doesn't spill over. You know what I
The
mean?
problem
It's
is it's very expensive. You have to have ice
yeah.
to play it. It's
Yeah.
not like soccer.
That's true, yeah.
You know, it's not like baseball. It's not like football. All you need to play those sports is a ball
Yeah, that's true.
or a bat. In hockey, you got to have all the gear.
Yeah.
And,
And the gear
you
is
got to
not
have
cheap.
ice. It's
Yeah.
not. And you got to have ice time. And so that's where the challenge comes in for areas outside of the ice belt,
Yeah.
which is why, you know,
And they
Minnesota.
can play outside here for 11 and a half months out of the year.
Easy.
Wait,
Easy.
as long as we actually get ice.
Yeah.
This year was fine.
Yeah,
There
we
have
had a
been
good ice
previous
season.
years
We had a
where-
good ice season. Yep.
Really?
Yep. Okay, guys, focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
So the Prairie Farm podcast, how long have you been producing it?
Almost 3 years.
Yeah. June of 2022.
And
Yeah.
I would say it gets better by the week. I'm serious.
Oh,
you guys
wow.
are
Thank you.
doing
Thank you.
phenomenal. Your hosting abilities, and the reason why I really have enjoyed having you on our podcast is because every one of our listeners relies on habitat
Yeah.
to have success in the field.
Yep.
Your life revolves around growing habitat.
Yep. That's right.
That's it. And there's not very many prairie farms out there,
Right.
is there?
There's more than you would think, but that number is still very small.
And it's shrinking.
Really?
It's getting less. Most prairie
But that's
farmers.
scary. We don't want that.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I mean, I want you to do well, but I
Yeah.
also realize that we need to keep this going.
Yeah.
Right.
There's probably 2 big factors to it. One is that most people who are growing prairie and own a prairie growing business are well into their 60s, up to, I know I can name 5 of the most popular ones in the Midwest are run by people in their 80s. And these men and women, for the most part, truly are farmers. They're
Mhm.
not like business people. So they weren't thinking when they were 60, they weren't thinking, okay, how can I bring a successor in here and that kind of thing. So now they're 75, 80, 85. I know an 85-year-old farmer. He's very good at growing certain prairie species. And his kids, they do.
Do you
other
guys get
things.
along? Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty
You-
close
yeah.
knit.
You're, so it's a close knit community where
Yep.
you share practices, you learn from each other.
Well,
You're
well,
friends, or are you?
Don't get carried away.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
That's
I mean,
important.
yeah, it's close knit in the sense that we come together, and really Iowa is, I guess, where the area of greatest need is. If you handle it well, you have the greatest resource to deal with the need. And Iowa does such a good job with having we have the Iowa Prairie Network, and that plugs in not just growers, but like our good friend, the first guy who comes to my mind when I think of Iowa Prairie Network is Lance.
Oh, yeah.
Our friend Lance Brisboy, who works for a nonprofit that promotes conservation, but specifically is tied to the Loess Hills Prairie region of Iowa, which is literally like, I mean, if you like had a big enough sneeze while you were driving down Interstate 80, by the time you opened up your eyes, you went through the Loess Hills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've hunted in the Loess Hills.
Really?
Yes, it's beautiful. I harvested pheasants and quail in the Loess Hills.
Yeah, yep, good for both.
Mhm.
And it's a unique prairie. There's species there that you will find nowhere else in Iowa.
Really?
And it's kind of a line. There's actually a lot of species that are quote unquote native to Iowa that actually are only native up to the Loess Hills. Like
Loco weed.
Loco weed. Yeah, that would be a good one. There's another one, common yarrow, common or western yarrow is more of a western species, so it's not really native to most of Iowa, but it hits the Loess Hills and then for some reason it's kind of done.
I think they also have some yucca maybe in the in the Loess Hills as well. But so Lance, you know, he's a guy who's not, I think he might do a little bit of growing, like some plugs or something, but he's mostly doing education, doing work days, coordinating work days. But he's part of the prairie community, adds a lot of value there. So there's a lot of people like that. There's people from the Xerxes Society, Monarch Joint Venture, and then there's other growers. And so we know each other. We try to help each other out. We can't all grow everything. So to create the most diverse seed, I'll use seed bank liberally here, air quotes around that, to create the best, most diverse seed bank for the prairie reconstruction customer, we all kind of have to work together, and we buy seed from each other, or we sell seed to each other, that kind of thing, to fulfill orders as they come in. But from a how do you clean this one species? A lot of that is proprietary, because that is what gives you the advantage at the marketplace. That's what keeps people coming to you to get that species, because you're the one that quote unquote figured it out.
Yeah.
Or at least figured it out better than anyone else did. And there's a lot of people who aren't in the seat of the grower or the seed producer who will criticize all growers, not just us. You guys need to share more information with each other. But the problem is the market on certain species can get flooded so quickly, and turning anything in the prairie world is turning a battleship. You know, it's not like corn and beans, where this year I got corn in this field, next year I'm going to have soybeans.
Right. Because that strip or that acreage that you allot for big blue stem, whatever it might be,
takes 3 years to get a good big blue stem crop off of that. So
and not only that, but we try to be fairly specific about where we source species from. So I'll give an example: silky or hairy wild rye, more of a shady species, but it can handle sun pretty well. We had to go to Tallgrass Prairie Center because we knew that they sourced their
University
stuff
of Northern Iowa.
Yep, they do a great job. They sourced their stuff well. So but all they had was 12 pounds. So we planted, a quarter acre of that 12 pounds. It's going to take 2 years to get a crop, 3 years to get a good crop. And we have to use all of that to plant a new field to then 3 years later get a crop of any size where we could sell it. Because we might get 30 pounds, but I don't want to tell people, hey, we've got silky wild rye, and then the first person who calls would buy it all. You know, you don't need tons, but you might need 250 to 500 pounds of a species like that.
So that's 3 years out. You're looking
6 years.
What seed? Oh, 6. So you're currently in. That's what I'm wondering. What seed puts you the furthest out in your planning process? At what, like right now at Hoksey Native Seeds, how far out are you looking on a certain piece of soil, and when you can harvest and then sell that?
Probably Canada anemone or the spiderworts, because they have such a long dormancy that you have to break. I believe it's for both those species, it's 60 days of cold, 60 days of warm, 60 days of cold, which, you know, using a refrigerator or something, you could simulate that. But I believe research has shown things naturally stratify better. So what you'd want to do is plant those seeds in, let's say, December. They'll get their 60 days of cold stratification. Then as the soil temps warm up, the following spring, summer. Then they're going to get their 60 days of warm stratification. It's not growing yet, just laying on the dirt.
And when you
Then-
say plant it, you basically are just spreading it, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
you have
Yep.
a seeder, like
Yep.
just you walk behind, like I would seed my lawn.
All sorts of different methods. The monkey organ, wear it on your chest, crank it. You gotta.
That's so terrible. I hate using
Yeah, I
that thing. It's
know.
terrible.
One time, Nicholas and I had a tag team a pretty sizable property with that bad boy. We both got our
What's
workout
that mean? What's pretty sizable in your world?
Wearing that
Football
thing,
fields?
I think it was over an acre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
that we were doing that.
Yeah, and so you're walking and it throws seed maybe 5 feet
And there's
wide,
a reason
and-
you're using that on an acre, because otherwise you just go in there with your drill, right?
Yeah,
Or your broadcast seeder or something. The reason you got the monkey organ out is because it's rough terrain.
yeah, it's so
Gotcha.
horrible.
So Nick puts his Crocs in 4-wheel drive and he
Yeah, look, man, the sport mode,
steel-toed Crocs, right?
the sport mode Crocs is no joke.
No, absolutely not. Okay. Onyx Hunt continues to revolutionize the digital mapping world that we live and hunt in. Their maps are updated regularly to provide almost real-time satellite imagery. What does that mean for you and I? Well, it means that you can be sitting in your vehicle in Minnesota and check on the habitat and crops in your favorite North Dakota fields. They've also updated their 3D mapping, and you can still get the same detailed satellite images from the past. Speaking of using Onyx in your vehicle, their maps work right in the dash of your hunting rigs. No more holding your phone while driving and scouting. All the same layers on your phone show up right on the dash of your truck. These are just a couple of the many features that Onyx Hunt has upgraded to ultimately make us all better scouters and better hunters. If you've never tried Onyx Hunt, I think now is a great time to give it a try before your next hunt. Download their free 7-day trial and test it for yourself at onxmaps.com. Always know where you stand with Onyx Hunt. If you're one of the lucky hunters that harvested your own tasty wild game this hunting season, then I want to personally congratulate you on your success. Well done. And if you want to make the most of all that hard-earned meat, then I recommend you head over to waltons.com. They have everything but the meat. That's their motto. They have all the tools to help you process and prepare your meat, like grinders, mixers, stuffers, slicers, smokers, grills, and seasonings. They have thousands of items in stock and ready to ship the same day. They've also recently launched their own dry curing cabinet and a whole line of chambered vacuum sealers, from large commercial grade sealers to smaller handheld models. And let me tell you, they are awesome. This year, John Tremblay and his team at Walton's are really focused on adding new content to their Meatgistics library to help all of us hunters make the most of our meat. All of that can be found at waltons.com, and you can listen to their own weekly Meatgistics podcast too. I'm happy to call the hardworking team at Walton's my friends, and I believe they will treat you like one if you choose to trust them with your own meat processing needs. Find everything they have to offer at waltons.com. We've got a lot to get into, but I want to beforehand. This is a phone call that I received a couple days ago, and this is a tough one actually. So I think this is more of just an ask for our listeners that maybe they might be able to help this gentleman out. So I'm not going to say first and last names just to protect the individuals here, but Ed is his first name, in southern Minnesota. And he's a listener to this podcast. He called because a friend of his has cancer, and he is in his, I think, late 60s, right around 70. These two friends have been bird hunters for many, many years, and right now, this gentleman that has cancer does not have a dog. He's had several dogs throughout his hunting life. At times, he didn't have dogs because he was deployed, served in Iraq, did multiple tours. And so this gentleman is one of the good ones. That's what Ed says. And I could tell in his voice that he just wanted to help him. And so he called and said, my friend has cancer and he doesn't maybe have as much time as he wants, but this fall he wants to take his grandkids bird hunting. And right now he doesn't have a dog. He says that he doesn't think he has time to train this puppy. And so he's wondering if I know somebody that might have a dog that is not a puppy that needs a new home. We've had these come up from time to time. Currently, I don't know of anybody that has a dog that might be a year or 2 or 3 years old that is a hunting dog that just needs a new home. So I guess the question I have for our listeners right now, if you know of somebody that has a dog that they're looking to rehome, a hunting dog, he's hunted with pointing breeds before, but would potentially accommodate a different breed. His goal is not to, go on one hunt at a game farm or at a hunting lodge and hire a guide. His goal is to be able to go hunting this fall with his grandkids and introduce them to the hunt with a dog that is ready to go hunting. So I think maybe somebody listening right now says, I know who has this dog. I trust that it could happen. It could be out there. If not, that's okay. But maybe just think about it, and then you can reach out to me directly. You can reach out to us on the Flush website, any of our social channels. If you search the Flush TV, you will find us, and you can send a message. It will get to me, and I will connect you with Ed. Ed will connect you with his friend, and hopefully we can help this family out and continue the love of bird hunting that they've cherished for so many years. So again, any dog that you think might work, we can at least have the conversation, and we could maybe help those grandkids get to have some really quality time with their grandpa before this horrible sickness goes any further. So just wanted to put that out there before we continue the conversation.
Such an amazing thing.
Good friend asking for that too.
Yeah, it speaks highly of their friendship. And
yes,
who they are.
exactly.
Love that he's going to bat for his friend like that. That's great.
Yeah, and that led to further conversation, and that's something you guys you're talking to a lot of your listeners now, and you talk about it in the show. They're reaching out, they have these questions, and we get them too, and that's what makes what we do really rewarding. Is it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've spent the last couple weekends in different places with different people, and it's humbling to be asked to go and stand up and speak and share my story. And last night was one of those nights, and I kind of buckled though. I actually asked for a couple minutes because I had to regroup my thoughts before I went up and spoke. And there's about 130 people at this private dinner, very fancy 5-course meal. And the chef would come out and he would explain the pairing with the bourbon and all this other stuff. And these are pretty high-end donors at Pheasants Forever. And Marilyn Vetter, she's the president and CEO of Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. And she was there to speak after I spoke. But this place that we had the event was right in my backyard of where I grew up.
Yeah.
Right in my backyard. It was, as the Onyx pins, I dropped one on my dad's home and one on the restaurant, Buddy Boy's Barbecue, which is amazing. And it was 1.2 miles away from where I grew up. And so I asked them prior, what do you want me to talk about? And they said, just share your story and why Pheasants Forever's mission resonates with you. And so I've shared my story a couple times at different banquets about growing up where I grew up and how I was essentially Mowgli, the character in the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
I was living with the animals and I had access to that. And it was it shaped my life, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The person that I am today is because of the ability for me to walk into my backyard and learn from wild animals in a wild place. And I can't even tell you how important that was to my life growing up. I realized that not everybody has that, and I was very blessed and fortunate. When I was 14 years old, I came home from school one day, got off the school bus, and bulldozers were leveling the trees in our backyard at the edge of our property. And I just broke down. I was in tears. Then anger came over me, and then I was mad at them, and then I was mad at my dad because he didn't stop them from doing it. He couldn't.
Right.
We didn't own the land.
Right.
Somebody else did. And so last night, as I'm standing there and I'm looking out over this audience of people, and I go, who are all these people that I'm about to speak to?
Yeah.
And they said, they're all in this area, from this area. And I could tell that there were some very successful businessmen in the audience. I'm not saying I was intimidated, but what I wanted to share was the fact that one person's decision to take something so amazing, and because essentially they got paid a lot of money for their land
Mm-hmm.
from a developer that was going to build it. There's 500 homes on that property today. I tried counting them. It's roughly 500. Before I went and spoke, I was like, I'm gonna count all these homes.
Right.
I quit at like 350, and I rounded to about 500.
Yeah, that'd be about 500.
But somebody made the decision to sell that land for their own personal gain. That's really what it comes down to, right? Because then they were releasing their attachment to it. I didn't actually know the person that sold it. They weren't around. They weren't running this land. It was just this wild place that myself and the other neighborhood kids and other people in town, enjoyed, appreciated.
Right.
And so I'm standing there thinking, for some reason, the guy that sold it is in this audience. And I talked to the person at Pheasant Shore. I'm like, for some reason, I just have this feeling that the guy who sold it is here tonight. And I don't know that I'm going to really,
Yeah.
offend this person. So then I said, do I need to change? In my mind, I stopped. I said, I need a minute to collect my thoughts here before I go up and share my story. That I was worried about offending this person. And then somebody else in the at Pheasant said, they're here because they care about habitat. If you offend them, maybe that might be the case, but you need to share your story.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'll do it. I led into other parts of the story there too, but it really comes down to, this changing landscape. Everything that we do to it has an effect down the line, right? My footprint today is on this earth forever. The decisions that I make are going to affect the world forever. That land will never look like it did when it was in its prime native habitat. And it was amazing. And it was before cell phones.
Yep.
And I don't have any photos of it or video. And Easter morning, on my way to my dad's, I drove through the neighborhoods, and one of my kids said, Daddy, why are we going this way? And I said, I want to remember what this place looked like when I was your age, because it's been over 30 years since it was transformed. And I was able to picture it, and there's parts of it that I still can, but the hillsides were leveled, the marshes were moved, the stream was routed off the property, and the trees were taken out. Other trees were planted. Some of them were kept, depending, how they were going to weave the tar through all that land. But it has, for all these years, it remained in my memory because it was such a vivid part of my life and shaped me. And I mean, I watched a doe give birth to a fawn 20 yards in front of me, right?
That's amazing.
And she was okay with it. That's what I'm saying. I was Mowgli. They were okay with me. They were comfortable with me. These wild animals.
It's just Travis again.
I see what you mean by it shaped your life too.
Yeah, exactly. So I have these vivid memories of it in my mind, and I was driving through it, and I couldn't picture the hills. I couldn't picture things and I started to tear up again, and my wife looked at me and she's like, you okay? I was like, I can't see some of these things. And it really hurt, because I don't know if, things change over time, and I guess it's been 30 years, but I never want to lose that.
Right. Yeah.
I never want to lose that vision of it too. So I did share that part of the story last night, amongst some other things, and I had some people come up and they said, I live there. And
man.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, wow.
And I want you to know that we try to make this backyard of ours, the water that is, the marsh that's been moved. And they're like, I get why it's so special. It's called Hunter's Crest. That's the name of the neighborhood.
Yeah, we're good at destroying something and then naming it what it used to be.
Really kick it while you're down.
Oh, but it wasn't a kick while I was down. It was thanks for sharing it.
Yeah.
I know more about where I
name
live.
of the-
Yeah, well, I know, but maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't want somebody to research it. Whatever. It's ironic, I guess. And they, a couple of these that care passionately about land, you know, they have to live somewhere too, and
Right.
we all have to live somewhere too. But doesn't mean it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and so.
But you know what though, that is, I mean, yeah, obviously we'd prefer it stays as it was, but it's an exciting way forward to know that there are people from those acres that are attending Pheasants Forever, where they're learning about habitat, and maybe they're bringing a piece of that. Hopefully, they are bringing a piece of that back to their yard. And Nicholas has talked about this since, speaking of when we started the podcast, basically day one. You know, take an urban area like where we're at now, and if everyone in the Twin Cities area put in a small backyard pollinator patch, that patchwork of habitat would create a macro effect for pollinators, you know, and other insects and songbirds. And because you're right, it's never going to be the same. And I think that for Iowa, our biggest story has been our native habitat has been turned into row crop production. And it remains that way for the vast majority today. But you do even see the progression goes, you know, has gone in Iowa, prairie, maybe some forest, wetland, row crop production, housing development. Once it gets to that housing development stage, or maybe even urban spread of the city itself, and you get a big old shopping center or something there, it's over. I mean, there's concrete on top of it now. The water's been rerouted. It's been tiled, and you know, you might have a little retention pond somewhere, but it's permanently that picture of what it was is permanently gone. However, we got to find a way forward. And if we can convince every one of those 500 homeowners on that piece of what was once beautiful habitat to at least incorporate a part of that half acre that they now own, or whatever, eighth of an acre, into some kind of, you know, plant an oak tree, or plant a little patch of prairie, or
a little rain garden.
Yeah, a little rain garden, or you know, if the neighbors start complaining about water coming up in the backyard, say, well, it was a wetland area right there at one time, so it's probably needs to be there. Maybe we should plant some you know, cattails and some other semi-aquatic plants.
How big of an area is, or how small of an area is too small to invest in planting pollinators or grasses? Let's say you've got a little piece of your yard, 10 by 10 square foot. Is that too small? Is it worth it? Is there
That's
benefit?
what one of my patches are.
Yeah.
I think it's 8 by 10. It's just a tiny little thing. And I've got maybe 30 different species that'll pop up in there. It's great.
Yeah.
I love it. But
and so there's value in doing that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the smallest we sell is 500 square feet, and that is not mean that you need at least 500 square feet. That's more of like at 500 square feet, you're paying more for me to package it than you are for actually the seed, you know? So it's like $30 or $40, you know, and after that, you start really making it unfeasible to move. But the actual size of an area you need is very small. I mean, my goodness, you could fit 80 plants in a really tucked away area.
I would even say you could go and buy some native plugs.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, you know, planting a couple, you know, an early season flowering species, midsummer flowering species, and a late summer flowering species, you've made a difference. Not for a ton, but for a few butterflies and bees.
I was going to say, for bees and butterflies, that's really the benefit there, because you're not looking at changing water quality by planting something in your yard that small. But if I suppose everybody planted a little bit, right?
And what's beautiful about that is the bee and butterfly, the diminished populations of bees and butterflies is a major issue. It's a major issue. We're talking endangered species, major issue. But to like help with that problem, in my opinion, is such low hanging fruit. You don't have to, I mean, now the more effort you put in, the bigger difference you're going to make, of course. But if you went to your local native plant nursery and picked out a handful of different flowering species. And you're like, you know what? I just want to make the front of my house look better by putting some native flowers in here.
Mhm.
You will have made a difference, not a huge one, but a difference for the bees and butterflies. A major problem helped by a minimal amount of effort. And there's not many things in this world where you can make a difference with minimal amount of effort.
With the making a difference, my friends, because there's all those jokes about how like something you're obsessed with, and your wife goes, "Okay, I need you to be normal at this hangout, at this dinner. I need you to be normal." And it's like
Never happens for Nicholas.
That's what makes you
in.
awesome, Nick.
Oh man, it's bad, guys. I go on these rants, but the way that I explain
I hate it when Nick acts normal.
it freaks him out. He's
It
like,
does.
"What's wrong with you? You smell normal." I don't understand.
It's called go Nick mode. When he like gets in this, like, I'm going to get all this stuff done.
Yeah.
It just sucks.
Okay, everybody hates go Nick mode, but I get a lot done.
Wait, who's the mule at your company? Who's the one that really gets some done? Because you guys are
Riley.
Yeah, Riley.
You guys are talking a lot.
Riley's
So
working
does
right
anybody
now while
actually
we're
get their
talking.
hands dirty?
Okay, so the coffee time that you listened to this morning,
Yeah.
in the middle of it, a customer showed up. So Riley got up and went and took care of the customer. I mean, he does
That'd be
all
like,
the work.
Al,
Yes.
go handle this, Al.
Yeah, that is exactly how it works. But so the when I'm explaining this to friends, like, hey, this makes a big difference. I explain it like a Jenga piece, like a Jenga tower. You can totally fine take out a couple pieces. That's fine. But taking out bees and butterflies, one, you can't take out too many pieces, otherwise the tower comes tumbling down.
Those are the bottom
Those
pieces.
are the bottom, and,
Yeah.
and they're big. You know,
Oh.
we those are important. So I think that it goes a long way just to have a little bit of natives, and it brings us back to your story about your childhood. What you were grieving, you had a real connection with that land. It wasn't made up. It wasn't imaginary. There was a
I
true
remember
connection
feeling
there.
like, what? I specifically remember asking my dad, where are the animals going to go?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I was young enough to, I'm still learning a lot, right?
Yes.
And that was a real concern of mine.
Man,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that connection with the land helped drive the compassion that you experience today that leads you to read things on air trying to help listeners.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So that's why I eventually brought it back around to, why do I care about the mission at Pheasants Forever today? I don't choose it. I
Mhm.
wake up every morning, and I mentioned this last night. I said, I obsess about wildlife and wild places because it's in my DNA.
Yeah.
I don't choose to. In fact, I have to choose to think about other things so I can focus and get my work done,
Right.
you know?
Wow.
Because that's where my brain naturally goes.
Yeah.
It's like breathing oxygen.
Yeah.
So let's go back to this. I have another take on this. So we've got these little pieces in our yard. You know, I live in a neighborhood, and I have some grass and wetlands and marsh area. Last week, and I could not even believe it. And I didn't even know what to think of it. And I knew you guys were coming and you were going to help me. We're going to hug here.
Yep.
And this is why I love you guys, because you do these native plants, but you think big picture, you think quality of life, you think health, you think a lot of stuff. And that's what your conversations are about. And so all of a sudden I hear, here comes this helicopter. And I'm like, wait a second. Are they coming this way? Oh yeah. Okay. They're going to drop mosquito pellets in.
Mm.
And they do this every year. Well, it was a wind that was blowing. My kids were outside on the trampoline jumping, and they're playing in the mud kitchen, my daughter.
Yeah.
And I was on the deck, and here comes this chopper through. And all of a sudden, I'm like, it's so windy. What's going on right now? And this chopper drops this stuff, and I'm yelling at the kids, hey, come here, get out of here. Come here.
Yeah.
And it was too late.
Yep.
They were covered in this white stuff that the helicopter was dropping. I was furious. I was so mad. I don't care what anybody tells me about how safe something is. That stuff that was dropped is intended to kill a living creature.
Right.
I do not care if it's safe or what it's made out of. Its intent is to kill mosquitoes, a living creature. Okay? What else is it going to kill?
Right.
Yeah. or at least harm.
At least
Yeah.
harm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this area, we've like the last few years, we've hatched monarch butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find them on the milkweed, you can hatch them.
Right.
And it's a cool thing. We want our kids to see this. In our area, we have milkweed behind our house. You
Mhm.
think we have any butterflies there? You think we
Yeah.
have any?
Yeah, I imagine not. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I think it's because this stuff gets dumped on it that's
Yeah.
meant to kill mosquitoes. I think it's killing more than mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't call this helicopter to come in
Right.
and dump this stuff. Who did? What are we doing here?
I had this exact conversation with Kent, I think this morning.
Yeah.
So last night, my wife and I went on a long walk. I'd been outside with Kent and Riley. We were hoeing weeds, and I got home and I was like, man, I feel like being outside. It's perfect. It was like 68 degrees. And my wife and I go on this long walk. Well, we start getting bitten by bugs, not mosquitoes. Yeah, I don't know what they were, but I was getting bitten. And I was so angry that I was getting bitten by bugs, that I was getting inconvenienced. I told Kent, it makes me want to have the whole city sprayed with pesticides. Obviously, that is totally exaggeration, but like that anger comes up, and I'm so used to being in an air-conditioned house, getting in my air-conditioned car, getting in my air-conditioned office, and then when I sit down in a chair, it better be really comfy, and when I drink a drink, it better be the exact temperature that I want it, and when I talk to people, it better be the exact conversations that I want to. Everything is exactly how I want. There's no inconvenience in my whole life, and I think about this. My life is wonderful. I work hard, but my life is an incredible life. I really don't deal with things that are quote unquote that terrible, that inconvenient, that out of my control. And so as soon as we can't control mosquitoes, but by golly, we're trying. And if we could change the weather, we would,
Right.
down to the left. So but I personally felt that impulse of like, we need to get rid of these insects. I'm tired of this,
Yeah.
and I had to fight that. Like, no, actually this inconvenience, one, it's good for me as a human, but, two, it's good for ecology, because if we got rid of these insects, then I would probably die,
Mhm.
Right.
So
we've had to go find butterflies at different places where they're not spraying,
Yeah.
to the best of my knowledge. And then we can find some, we can
Right.
hatch them, and the kids watch the whole
Yeah.
process.
did you find out who's doing that?
Well,
Like,
I don't know yet. I
my
have to
guess
call the
is,
city and say,
yeah,
obviously it's the city.
It's a municipality thing, and my guess is there's the same thing that I get frustrated by is all the ditch mowing. I can understand on a major road, you mow the shoulder. People get a flat tire, they need a safe place to pull over and change their tire. But I live on a gravel road. Why the heck are my tax dollars going to habitat destruction on a gravel road? Even if it's just brome, at least there's some escape cover there for a young pheasant or quail.
Right now, most of our listeners are saying, amen, brother.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so. I think what probably has been set in motion is it's just on a to-do list for these different departments in our townships or in our cities or our counties, whatever, who's ever in charge of it. And until there's a squeaky enough wheel to stop, it'll.
Do I have to be the squeaky enough
I
wheel?
think so. I think you do. And that comes with its own trade-off too, right? Because now, like you said, do I have to be the squeaky wheel? There's a connotation that goes with being a squeaky wheel.
yeah.
I'm going to have neighbors that are mad that there's more mosquitoes around.
Right,
and they're
right.
going to be like,
You all have less-
yeah, can you believe it? Bad here. No.
Well, and I think it's important too, though, to tell a story like that.
Well, so I'm picking this stuff out of my girl's hair.
Yeah.
It's all over. I had to get the broom and the air, the blower, and blow off the deck, blow off. It was covering.
Think of all the asbestos horror stories, or the
and I can't talk now.
Yeah.
And I can't even talk now. Look at what it's doing to me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Or the
I'm pretty sure that was more of a Minnesota Wild thing. Trying to blame it on the
It's
mosquito.
all connected, Nick.
It is.
It's all connected.
It probably is.
At the Flush Podcast, we make it our business to bring you educational, inspiring, and entertaining upland bird hunting content. But we're not the only ones. Our friends Nicolas Lirio and Kent Boucher at the Prairie Farm Podcast have created one of my favorite podcasts. Their weekly topics range from wild hunting stories to conservation efforts to America's food system. I enjoy their thought-provoking conversations so much that I've invited them on this podcast twice in the past year, and I hope to have them back again soon. If you're looking for more great content in this outdoor space, I highly recommend you listen to the Prairie Farm Podcast, found on all major streaming platforms. If you're active in great outdoor adventures, then odds are good that you have gear, equipment, and toys that you need to haul. Well, our friends at Aluma Trailers, they've got you covered. Their trailers are built by a hardworking team in Bancroft, Iowa, right here in the good old USA. They have models for all of your hauling needs, from ATV and UTV trailers to snowmobile, motorcycle, car trailers. And, well, basically, if you need to haul it, they have a trailer to tow it. Trust me when I say that Aluma Trailers tow gear like a dream. Their trailers are constructed out of lightweight, strong, corrosion-resistant aluminum, and they are 100% maintenance-free. Plus, they come with an industry-best 5-year warranty. Visit alumaklm.com to find a trailer that fits your needs. If you're looking to sharpen your upland shooting skills, or maybe your kids are starting to get into the sport like mine are, then you need to check out GAIM. That's GAIM. Our friends over there are changing the way we approach training. Their cutting-edge virtual reality hunting and shooting scenarios immerse you in the field without actually leaving your home. Whether it's game birds or clays, the GAIM system allows you to practice your shotgun mechanics, giving you real-time shot feedback that allows for instant adjustments. And it's been incredibly fun for my kids. It allows them to safely build confidence, which I know translates to success in the field. Virtual training, real results. Click the show description below to learn more, or visit their website at gaim.com to try for yourself. That's GAIM.com.
But the other one is, I think it's DDT, right? Where they used to, like, you go on a commercial airliner. I learned this at some point. I think I was listening to an interview with, I want to say it was maybe Joel Salatin, maybe was saying this. I could be wrong on that. But
this is where he goes in.
I don't want to put
coming up with names.
I don't want to put words in someone's mouth here. It was somebody, an alternative ag person, I'll say that. Talked about how, like,
your brains are steel traps. Everything that goes in there. That's why it's interesting to have conversations with you, and it's interesting to listen because I can't remember this kind of stuff. Anyway,
the
keep
stuff
going.
that Kent remembers is incredible.
It's incredible.
Sometimes the thing I don't remember is incredible.
Statistics, yeah.
But they would do like little. The best way I can describe it, when you have a new baby, they send you home with that like ear syringe thing or whatever. The little, it's like the bulb. And you can like
the booger
nose
sucker.
sucker?
The nose sucker. That's what it is. Not an ear; it's for your nose.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
been using
Maybe
it wrong
he doesn't
all these
remember
years.
things that well, after all.
I won't say what Nick thought it was.
How
for,
many kids do you have now?
I got 4.
30.
Yeah, I know.
that's right.
It's not an ear thing.
We always use that. We use
What
the.
are you doing
we
to
use,
your kids?
well, we don't use them because we use this fancy thing called a nose Frida. And
Same.
and
My
I-
wife got that thing too. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But I don't dare. Yeah, I don't dare
Suck
use
it.
it. I don't dare use it. It's just gross. I know.
I won't touch it. My wife
Exactly,
does. And I'm like, what are you
exactly.
doing?
I'm like, whatever happened to the ear bulb thing? No wonder she doesn't know what I'm talking about. But anyways, I think,
Honey, get the ear bulb.
but they would use. I imagine it to be something similar to that, to like dust a little powdered insecticide. I think it was DDT. Inside the cabin of the airplane, just in case there are any insects that flew in while the doors are open, or mosquitoes, just to have a more enjoyable flight, right? And probably I wouldn't be surprised if it was an effort to, cut down an invasive species transfer if you're flying from far enough places away. But we incorporated so much, then we found out, oh wow, this DDT, this is causing some problems. I don't know. I'm not really aware of any that have been really traced to humans necessarily, but definitely for birds. They found out it was making bird eggs more fragile. So when a brooding mother would sit on her nest, she'd crack her eggs. And it was hurting the population, especially of bald eagles. I think we're most directly tied to that. Point being, we hear those stories and we're like, can you believe they used to do this? Or the Flint water problem. Everyone's got lead pipes. Are you kidding me? You guys all want lead poisoning?
Lead
Or-
paint, asbestos,
mercury
insulation.
thermometers. We say all that. And I just really think that we still have some of those that are going to get found out, right?
Yeah.
And when we go whole hog into something like we do with chemical use, and I'm not anti-agrochemical. I use it. In Iowa, we'll have people that'll be like, you don't need to use that. I'm just like, well, let me tell you, when you have the most fertile soil on earth and you have so many invasive plants, everything wants to grow here. And we, yesterday afternoon, Nick and I spent a lot of time with a hoe and a shovel digging up weeds that way. But there's times where there's just so much of it, you're going to have to use a little herbicide to get ahead of it. And if you asked most prairie reconstructionists, give me a list of your top 5 tools, I guarantee you Roundup's going to be on that list. So I'm not anti-chemical. However, I want to mitigate the amount or lessen the amount that I'm needing to use.
It doesn't make sense that a quarter of the Midwest gets sprayed with chemicals 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
That's whole hog adoption, right? That's going all in on, we're counting on this to be safe. And
at the cost of getting some more time back into your life, right? Because you could go out there and hoe it. You could go out there and pick weeds. And that's what my parents did on the farm back before they started dumping stuff. I mean, you look at a soybean field and it's perfectly lined. And all you see is dirt underneath it. Not a single weed in the entire field. And you're like, wow.
I was explaining that to my wife this year. It was early March, right before we start planting anything. Nobody's planting anything in Iowa or early March, or at least nothing's growing. I said, look out at these corn and bean fields. It's all dead. Yes, if there was prairie here, yes, you would probably all be brown, but you'd have all sorts of things living in there. Right now, you can look for miles in every direction, and there's nothing. There's nothing.
Devoid of life.
Now it's greener, and by the time it's theirs, it'll be a lot greener. But still, there's not that many critters in there. There might a few field mice, some raccoons ravaging the corn, but there's hardly anything going on in there. And they used to be one of, if not the most diverse biome on Earth. And now it's just nothing in every direction. And that it's like worrisome, because you go, but we got to grow food. Yeah, but we've decimated an ecosystem in order to grow calories that a good friend of mine who's a doctor says corn is the worst vegetable for you. It's it'll get you through the day, but it doesn't add anything to your body.
Technically a grain.
And thank you. But then at its worst, it's probably the worst food for you, corn syrup. And so I mean, just terrible.
Well, and I mean, I don't want to pretend that there's not hunger in other places of the world, because there certainly is. But here in the States, there's not a lot, and I'm not saying there isn't anywhere here in the States, because there's people who deal with homelessness and just really, really dire situations. But I would say that is a vast minority of our country. And in fact, what do we hear all the time is a major problem here in this country is people wearing too many calories, right? We have I'm not immune to that myself, right? We can get calories so easy with so little output for our input that we could stand to not milk the earth for everything that it can give us.
Didn't you guys have a stat last time you were up about how much waste in food that we have in America? Is it 50% of our food is wasted?
Yeah, at some breakdown, because there's tons of different steps of the food process, from growing it to getting it to processors to distributors to that kind of stuff, and it ends up being 50%. Most of it gets thrown away in homes or at restaurants, but because the people selling the food, they're going to be really efficient with it. But when you add every single step percentage up, it ends up being 50% of food. So the amount of food that we grow, I can't remember. It's like the average person in the U.S. for their size needs 2,100 calories a day or something, and we grow a little over 4,000 or raise or produce. Whether
per person.
Yeah.
Well, I think a hunter probably would be better at maximizing their food, because I think hunters value the effort you put in. It's like if you grow a garden, you want to make sure every single vegetable is eaten.
Yes.
You work so hard for that. But when you press a button and it shows up, it has no connection to you.
Yep.
And so it's not a big deal to just toss it.
Right.
But if that's a deer I harvested or a bird,
Yep.
you're not throwing that piece away. I'll take that last bite.
That's
You
right.
know, like
That's right.
you just don't want to waste anything because you value it so much.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
This is a really tricky thing, and it can get me into trouble. But hear me out. The United States, I believe, pre-COVID paid 11% of its wages in food, and post-COVID might be 16%. It's still by far the lowest, except for a couple of European countries that are very wealthy and consolidated, like Luxembourg. It's by far the lowest percentage of any country or developed country on earth of how much we spend on our food. And this person from France, I was talking with them, they couldn't believe that our bread lasted more than 3 days. It like disturbed them that we weren't going to the bakery or wherever we were getting bread every 3, maybe 4 days to have bread in our homes. Instead, we had bread that just sat around for 3 weeks, and even mold didn't grow on it. Mold grows on anything, and it takes a while for that mold to
But why is that?
My guess is because of the preservatives and chemicals. But to be fair, I'm not a chemist or a doctor. But I can't find in my city, I can't find a single place that sells bread that doesn't have enriched flour. And I'm like desperately trying to look for some because it actually causes, for me, enriched flour causes eczema to break out on my hands.
Oh,
And you could see it. I mean, it's really gnarly. And so I can't.
that
find
right
it.
there is
Yeah.
caused by
enriched flour. Yep,
Seriously?
enriched flour, and then
How did you learn that?
Oh, didn't you think he was just chewing on his hand all the time?
I mean, it's really bad. And I guess for the camera,
That's
if
what
anybody
Kent
can
tells.
see.
That's what Kent tells
Yeah.
people when they ask.
Oh,
he's
he's a
like,
hand-
"Oh yeah, they're just chewing."
He gets
on it."
Careful,
nervous.
he's a hand biter.
That and some seed oils will produce. It took years of narrowing stuff down. I had an Excel sheet for a while of like, okay, I ate eggs this morning and I didn't get it, but then I ate eggs 3 days later and I did get it, and it took a while. So it was seed oils and enriched flour. So
that's this is a whole nother topic, is the amount of allergies to food today is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, you didn't even talk about it. And I'm not that old. I'm 41.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, people that can't drink milk. I'm one of them now. I drink glasses of milk every single day as a kid.
Don't tell
And
me
now
that, Travis. I love drinking
Oh,
milk.
I
Don't tell me
do
I'm not-
too.
Don't tell me I'm
I
not
do
safe.
too.
My friends make fun of me for how much milk I drink, and I'm like, "It's milk."
Yeah, I know.
I miss it. I love it. But if I drink it, I might as well be drinking it on the toilet.
Wow.
And I hate to say
Oh,
that, but
man,
that's the way my body accepts it.
Do you
now.
do ice cream anyway?
Yeah,
you just
but I
plow
might as well
through.
eat it on the toilet too. I don't
Yeah.
like that, but I still power through sometimes.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit well with me. And I have kids that we've learned there's certain things, like one of my sons, he can't eat eggs. And we have chickens. Oh,
Yeah.
poor guy. And eggs whale. I love eggs. I eat them every
I
day.
will say
And
I don't want to say like the exact facts because I don't remember exactly, but I saw a study that said
bring some stats, Al.
I'll bring some stats next time. I don't remember as much as they do. So,
Yeah.
because of the things we eat and the things that go into the things that we eat, especially fast food, like the problems that kids are going to start having from an early age are
Yeah.
just keep going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Like things like
man.
asthma and being lactose
Right.
intolerant, stuff
Right.
like that.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
all
That's
kinds
scary.
of our kids we've learned certain things of. It's almost like you need to reset their bodies and get rid of some of that junk that's in there.
Yeah.
And we've done that. And we've learned a lot in the last few years of having kids and how their bodies are affected by the foods that we eat now. And so we are trying to be very mindful of what we eat and where we get it from, because I mean, it's crazy, right, guys? This is
Yeah.
but why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
It's cheap. We
It's cheap. There's the
like
answer.
getting as much as we can for as little as possible, to the point that if you talk to financial advisors, one of their rules is don't buy something because it's on sale. You know, we just love getting a deal. We love the efficiency.
We exploit ourselves. Nicholas brought up such a great point on our way up here about the timing of once coffee started to be, I guess we'll say used, right? Because caffeine is really what we're after and I love drinking coffee.
Oh man, you
I
guys
I
don't
couldn't
even
imagine
know.
a day without this right
Yeah.
here. Oh
Yeah.
gosh,
I'm
I'm
a-
gonna take a sip while you're
Yeah.
talking about it. Actually,
But Nicholas, I'll let you state the fact because I had never heard this before. But you said the Renaissance,
the Renaissance and the Enlightenment era,
scientific revolution, or something like that.
Yep, the Renaissance and the Enlightenment era line up with when coffee was introduced to Europe, and what it was. Well, first I should say I own a coffee shop.
Full disclosure.
I drink coffee and not trying to press on anyone's buttons, but anything you can't live without, you're a slave to. So just a little bit in there.
Yep.
But
That was for me.
Yeah.
He's not talking to anyone else out there. He's talking to me.
But what we were talking about then was coffee literally helped us push past our limits. And we came into this, the Enlightenment era, ended up to general education, ended up in a industrialized society. And I'm not against how, like, everything we're doing right now. And I'm very glad that we've found efficient ways to make shirts. But Kent said, we've literally pushed past our own boundaries. And we've gotten used to that. We push past what the land's boundaries should be. We've pushed past what relationship boundaries, what our mind can handle with social media and how much work we should or shouldn't be doing. I mean, it used to be we were dictated by the sun, and there was less sun in the winter. Oh, and it was colder, so there was a lot more rest going on. And that's just not the case anymore. And I think
I feel tired. Give me a coffee.
Yeah. No,
I got work
literally.
to do,
Yeah. I've got work to do. Turn on the lights, and so we've kind of pushed past this natural cycle of the earth and of our bodies. And now again, I use light bulbs, and I work at 9:30 at night sometimes, and I drink coffee most days. And so, but it just made me think, like, it always leads me back to margin. There should be margin in your personal space, your emotions, your relationships, on the land that you're in charge of, and your finances. Every area of your life should have margin. You shouldn't be stretched thin all the way. And so you see a lot of these agricultural advertisements. What are they saying? Get the most for your buck. Get the most out of your land. Make sure you're extracting every single thing you can. And thousands of years ago, Moses in the Bible writes about actually allowing it fallow, 7 years fallow on the ground. We know scientifically that humans need a day of rest in the week. We need about 14 to 15% of our time needs to be restful, not including sleep. And so, I don't think the ground is that different in what it needs to then be able to produce and thrive in its best possible situation.
I'm working on this story right now for Minnesota Bound, different TV show. And in the interview, Scott Rull, who I've had on this podcast, I think 2 times, maybe 3 times, one of the most well-known Pheasants Forever volunteers, hardest working volunteer, maybe in the history of the organization. The guy has tattoos on his body to prove it. He wakes up in the morning and all he thinks about is how to make the world a better place for wildlife. And
Wow.
And it's literally his mission. And so he has this event, which last time I had him on the show, he did talk about this event because he was in town for it. And it's called Dinner in the Wild. And he auctions this off to a different charity, non-hunting charity, because it's a hunting world that he lives in, right? But he wants to reach somebody outside of it, right? So he auctions it off to this charity, Dinner in the Wild experience. They come out to his place. So they come out, he gives them a tour of this property. He immerses them in the grass, in the habitat. They see the animals. He explains it. He's kind of like you guys. He just has a wealth of knowledge. And afterwards, then he prepares this big feast for them. They sit out there overlooking the prairie at his little outpost cabin on the prairie.
Love that.
And they eat. And he says, nobody ever talks about the food. Afterwards, they call me afterwards and they say, thank you for letting me touch it. Let me be immersed in it. That was something I've never done. When you touch land, it touches you back, right,
Absolutely.
guys? It really does in your soul and in your hands and the earth that way too. And in his interview, he said, gosh, I don't want to mess this up, but he basically said, we are basically, God put us on earth to protect the creatures. We need to do a good job of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of I just sat on that for a minute. Like, we are
Yeah.
in charge of the land and the creatures. We need to do a good job of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, people refer to that as the Dominion mandate, and that word Dominion can be looked at in different ways, right? It can be looked at as the root word for dominate. I'm going to beat this all into submission. I'm going to let it know that I'm in charge, and I'm in control. Or you can look at it in a more stewardly way and we've all had bosses in our lives, right? And if you had a boss that technically has dominion over you while you're at work, right? And if they took that attitude of, hey, I have dominion over you, I'm going to dominate you today, and I'm going to dominate you every hour that you're here, you probably aren't going to be working there very long.
Yeah.
But if they have the attitude of, oh, I have dominion over my employees, that means I need to make them comfortable. I need to give them what they need so that they can do the best work that they can do. I need to protect them, like you said. We need to be looking out for them if there's an angry customer or there's a piece of equipment that's not ready to be used right now, or is unsafe, or it's an unsafe work environment. I need to keep my employees safe. I need to set them up for success, right? And that, I think, is the true intention of that.
I would add on to that. So the dominion mandate comes from Abrahamic, like the text in Genesis. Yep. Where the
I
Lord,
really think when Leopold said Abrahamic, I think he just mixed up Moses and Abraham. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, because Moses is the one who wrote it down.
Yeah. Well, no, because you study like Abrahamic religions in college. Yeah. It's like and in Genesis it talks about the dominion, and the pinnacle point of Genesis is when God, after Adam and Eve, for anyone listening who's not familiar with the story, they betray God, they sin, and God says, he foretells the coming of the pinnacle of the whole Bible, which is Jesus. And so Jesus, being the example and the main point of all of Genesis and all of that, talks about his dominion and his kingdom. Mm-hmm. And then he perfectly exemplifies how someone is supposed to lead a dominion or a kingdom. And he does that by washing his servants' feet. He does that by totally serving, putting them first. So if we are supposed to have the land as our dominion, what does that mean? We serve the land. Yeah. We not in like a weird worshiping the land. Yep. But we protect it. We enhance it. We fight for it. We connect with it. It's all a part of it. And I think that when we get that mixed up for what does the land get for me, we totally missed the point of that text way back in 6,000 years ago, whenever that was written. And I think that it guides me today when I look around. It's like, well, how am I supposed to help this land, and what decisions can I make where this benefits this and the wildlife on top of it?
We know the feeling. When you close your eyes, you're there. Wide open spaces, fresh air. You have big dreams. We also know there's uncertainty. Between you and your destination, there's the unknown. But we know how to get you there. We've been helping people like you find their way home for decades. We're Compeer Home, and we know the way. To get started or find out more, visit us at compeerhome.com or by calling 833-986-8001. Compeer Home is a division of Compeer Financial, who is an equal opportunity provider and employer and an equal credit opportunity lender. Compeer Home Services, NMLS number 619731. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved.
America's greatest pheasant hunting experience awaits you in Aberdeen, South Dakota. So many birds, so little time, so many memories. Come for the adventure, return for the tradition. They have so many dog-friendly and hunter-friendly hotels, thousands of acres of public land, and the Aberdeen Pheasant Coalition public lands. Hunt Aberdeen, South Dakota. Request your free hunting guide at huntfishsd.com. That's huntfishsd.com.
So there's this, going back to my story and how where I grew up doesn't look anything like what it once did, right? And currently, the sprawl from the city is coming at us. Like, it's coming at us hard. There are for sale signs on farm ground, on acreage, everywhere I look. There's developments
Your
going
town
on.
alone in the past 5 years.
It's to the point where it's just like, oh my goodness. And then there's people that move out and they live here and they're like, we're going to put up this big event center and we're going to have hotels. And, and it's like, this is being proposed. And I'm just saying, please don't go through.
How about
please no, because this is an area that is so great because there's wild places in it, right? So all these homes are being built on these 10-acre pieces and hidden in the forest and all this. And I'm like, it's great for you. You're living there. It's beautiful, but at the cost of this land is being changed constantly. So the other day, you know, as I'm seeing all this going up, and I'm like, gosh, it's just another thing is going up. This big building is going up, and I was just disheartened. I guess I get that more people want to live in this area, and at the cost of that is homes need to be built, and then things to entertain the people that live here, and all this other stuff to make money. Money.
Yes, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
So there's this one lady who owns this chunk of land that butts up to where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And she has been approached by, I know her, she has been approached by many people and offered millions of dollars for her land.
Mm-hmm.
Millions of dollars. And she has turned it down again and again. And part of it is like, you have this beautiful place. She gets to live in a beautiful place.
Yeah.
If I sold, you know, like you see on Jimmy John's where they say, remember the fisherman who goes and, you know, like that whole thing is such a perfect story because, so that I would go in and I'd grow my business, and then the goal would be to have what I have today, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So if she sold it, what would be the cost of that? So she would want what she has today, probably.
Yeah.
So I sent her a message the other day. I was just thinking about it, and I just said, I just want to say thank you for protecting your land and keeping it wild. There are so many wonderful places in our area that are getting bulldozed and turned into homes and buildings, and it hurts to see it. I cherish your place and the wild animals that live there and make our area in this world such a great place to be. So thank you.
Yeah.
And she said, you're welcome.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But she could have sold that 20 different times, and there would literally be a continuous neighborhood from Minneapolis all the way to the lake.
I was just about to say, I almost wonder in 50 years, like what it's going to look like, you know, like.
But it's her turn.
Yeah.
Right. This is her turn when she.
I was hoping we'd bring this phrase
I know,
up.
I know it.
Quote Doug
so
here.
this guy who owns this paradise sells it and gets a bunch of money, right? There's 500 homes now that are there, and a bunch of people live there. He got a bunch of money out of it. He was given that land, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know this, but maybe he worked really hard and bought the land, and that was his goal, was to buy this big property so I could sell it for more money so that I could then buy something else that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Money.
Yep.
Right? But at the cost of this beautiful place never being ever again beautiful in the way that it was created before this one human had their turn with it.
Yep.
You know, and I've had conversations before with friends that he's like, I've got this idea. There's this great property up here along the shoreline of this river. I could buy 80 acres of it. I could put up 7 cabins on it, parcel it off, and then I'd have the money from that. I would build my own on it. And then I could sell that too. And then I'd buy this over here. And I was like, you're just doing it to make money. And I get that. And I am not trying to tell you not to succeed in America and do something profitable. The only thing that comes to my mind, because it's fresh in my mind, because I'm writing stories about this land right now and the value of it in this wild place, is that's a wild place right now.
Mm-hmm.
You have no connection to it. Somebody else does.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people. And just so that you can make a few bucks, you're going to change it forever, and it'll never be wild again.
Yep.
Something to just think about as you move forward in these plans is that what you do to that land is not only going to give you benefit, but it is going to drastically affect people around that area that live there, that maybe love where they live because it's a wild place. And now all of a sudden you've got 8 townhomes along the shoreline that never were there before. Everything else around there is wild, but just because the land is for sale and you can afford to buy it doesn't mean that you should change it.
Mm-hmm.
So he just thought, I'll think about that. And he never moved forward on it. I don't know if I was right in saying that. I don't know. But all I know is
Nick
I'm writing a story
Nick
about
loves passivity, so he thinks you should have just given him the cold shoulder for. No, I'm just kidding.
Man.
No, I think
I
you did the
appreciate
right
you
thing.
saying something to him. That was awesome.
Well, it's just fresh in my mind, and this is the world that I live in. I talk about it, and we celebrate when we save a chunk of land, but we don't really say much of anything when we lose a whole pile of it.
Right. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Just conserving what we have currently? I'm curious. I want to play devil's advocate.
Go on
Obviously, I
a
agree.
different podcast.
No.
Get out of here.
Get out.
Sorry, we don't allow that here.
Yeah, just go ahead and turn his
I'll
mic down for this.
Oh man.
Mute Nick, please.
Well, where should those people go? Where should people live? Right? Because
Yeah.
we're building houses, right? Where should they go?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
This ties into a current event right now. The Secretary of the Interior and the Secretary of I can't ever remember.
Oh, the conservationist of our time.
Yeah, right. The HUD housing, HUD housing urban development, is that what it is? Housing and urban development, I think is what it stands for. HUD housing. They're working together on selling some public lands.
Yep.
And to set up affordable housing options. And I don't know about the Twin Cities, but pretty much every urban area I've ever been to, there's quite a few unoccupied homes. There's quite a few old, falling down businesses and, commercial buildings, things like that. Like, what about that space? Why? So to me, the answer to that question is, why can't we look at the areas that already have been permanently set into commercial or residential development and maybe pour that money into, instead of building affordable housing, pour that money into either fixing up what's already there, demolishing what's there, and setting the slate clean for development there for new buildings or something. I mean, space is a limited thing. And I just think that if we could be more efficient with our planning in that way and quit rezoning everything that's not residential or commercial as residential and commercial anytime that I don't really want to live there. I want to live over there.
Yeah.
Until we have some kind of break for that, when is enough? And I know the argument is, well, those public acres are just, you can't even utilize them. Yeah. Well, they're not developed. And to me, that's
important.
That's important enough.
Yeah.
And a great follow on Instagram is the Native Habitat Project. A friend of ours, Kyle Leibarger, runs that page. And I can't tell you how many videos I will see him like in this tiniest little piece of undeveloped land. He'll be like, oh, this is the, one was, I think it was a tall prairie clover, maybe is what it was. I want to say it's Dahlia foliosa, maybe is the,
I don't know. It's out of my region.
Name.
Yeah.
But,
I know what video you're talking about.
But he raised money to buy this very small amount of land because it was like the only place that had really been identified where this species of native flower still existed. And it was just this tiny little, maybe an acre of land. And they sold all these t-shirts to raise the money to buy that because it was about to be developed. It was going up for sale and it was likely going to be developed. And I think they did raise enough money to save, but that's just one example. He goes through and has all these little tiny areas. Yeah, this is critically endangered, this plant here. This is one of the last areas where we know this plant to exist. And I'm not saying that's true on all these acres that are publicly owned and undeveloped, but it could be. And once it's paved, we know it's not now.
I'm not trying to dodge this question, Nick, but
Yeah.
you know what? I think a lot of it comes down to is a lack of connection to something.
Absolutely.
So somebody that doesn't have any connection to that land, that maybe is now in ownership of it, they're like, I don't have a use for it. I'm just going to sell it. There's no connection to the land.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, going back to this dinner in the wild thing, the reason he wants a non-hunter is he wants somebody that doesn't understand it to come in and to experience it. Because if you experience it, then you can understand it.
Yeah.
And if you understand it, then you value it, right?
Right.
And there's that connection to it. Just like hunters. That's why it's so important for us to take our kids hunting, because there's a day when they're going to be the ones making decisions for animals and land that the animals live on. And if they don't have a connection to it, they don't know anything about it, they don't care about it, why would we expect them to make a decision that impacts it in a way that is valuable to the
Right.
land and the animals, because they don't have any connection to it. They don't know about it.
Right.
And there's a lot of that in this world right now. A lot of that
Yeah.
is happening right now. So that's why it's so important to share these experiences with other people, to bring somebody else out into a
Yeah.
place like that. And then Scott would say, I can only do so much as one person, because I offer 12 people to come out to dinner. I cook for them. I show them this place. My goal is if 2 or 3 of them want to do something about it, now there's 2 or 3 more people that are
Right,
doing
yep.
something about it besides just me. And then if
That's
I can do that
beautiful.
everywhere, it's like I'm doubling my reach, my action by having more people involved in the fight. So that's why he's trying to find other ways to get more people in. It's just, it's one at a time, and that there's value in that too.
Yeah.
Guys, we could talk for days and days. We got
Yeah.
we have 19 minutes left. That's all the time
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
giving
boy.
us, because there's something happening in this exact space here.
Yes.
And then we've got big plans for today too.
That's
So
right.
let's go and get back into your world a little bit here about seeds. When somebody calls right now and you pick up the phone, what are a couple of the most commonly asked questions that you're getting?
Oh, good question.
Is
good
Nick there?
question.
The what?
Is Nick there?
Yeah, that is a good question. So I get what should I plant? When should I plant it? Is probably the most common.
Perfect. And the reason I ask is because if people are wondering, our listeners are probably wondering too.
Yeah, well, and to be fair, it's an interesting one because most people, if they're planting grass or something like that, they're doing it in March or April. And most prairie species are warm season, so we're planting in May or even the first half of June, depending on how far south you get. Minnesota's for sure you can plant through the first half of June, and then you can start planting again in second half of November. The what should we plant? That one's, I like that one a lot. It's one of my favorite parts of my job because it is it's one mix doesn't fit all boxes. Now we get around that a little bit by having really, really diverse mixes. That helps. But tell me about your land. I usually ask a few questions. How much sun does the area get? Do you want some flowers,
Kind
no
of soil
flowers,
do
a
you
lot
have?
of flowers?
What do
And
people generally want? Curious. I'm
They,
just curious.
they do generally want, they either want beauty or wildlife. Those are the two big things. Hey, I want wildlife.
Can't you
to
have
show-
both?
You definitely can. That is for sure. In
And
fact,
Doesn't
and a
one
close-
create the other though?
oh yeah.
And close number 3 is I don't want to mow.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I can't wrap my head around. Mowing
That's
my
Travis's
lawn
favorite
is-
thing to
When
do.
I retire from this, I'm going to be a lawnmower. I love it. I absolutely love mowing the lawn. I get to ride on a machine or push it, whatever. I'm operating a machine. It's loud. Nobody can talk to me. And I don't have to think. I just follow the line.
Yeah, they're-
and then when you're done, you look at it like, oh, that's pretty.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They I had this my parents set me up with this old riding mower. It was a white, that was the brand, a white lawnmower. And then the moment I graduated high school and moved out, they got this big old nice zero turn.
Now that they have to do the work.
Half the time that it takes.
Yeah.
But they definitely can have both. I mean, most flowers are beautiful to humans because they're also beautiful they're trying to attract the bees and butterflies. And so very easy to do. It really is just like, do you want tall grass? Do you want short grass? And then how many flowers does your budget allow? Basically, we've got, you can do quite a few flowers with not that much of a budget, but there's some really pretty ones like Blazing Star, a lot of the early season Ohio Spiderwort, Prairie Spark. Some of those get really expensive. So I keep them out of the base mix. And then if someone says, hey, I'm willing to pay the money, or I only have a small amount of land, so it's not that much money total,
Right.
then we can add those in. And for the beauty, and they're some of the favorites for the pollinators. So I'd say those are the, like, what should I plant and when should I plant are the most common ones.
Then also preparation. What do I need to do to
Yeah.
get my yard ready to plant this? And that's a complex question, and I find it to be more complicated the longer I do this. A good general starting point is you need 2 killings of what's already growing there. Now,
2 killings?
2 killings. So if you're planting into, like, if let's say you're installing CRP, you're planting into old soybean ground. Well, most likely they were Roundup ready soybeans and they'd been sprayed a couple times for many growing seasons now. There's probably not going to be much of a weed seed bank there because they've all grown up, sprayed, died off, didn't reproduce, that kind of thing. But if you're installing like a backyard prairie
or a cattle
into-
field or something like
into
that.
turf grass, well, you have established plants there that are not going to allow your prairie to grow there because
Can't
they
just
have
throw the seeds on top and
right. So you gotta find a way to eliminate that cover. Well, as we said earlier, most of us are in favor of less chemical. So I actually have about a 5,000 square foot prairie in my yard that I used black silage tarp instead of herbicide to kill off the existing cover.
How long did you have to leave the tarp on?
You need to keep it down for about 6 weeks
Okay.
for each killing, just to make sure you get a real good, thorough smothering of what's there. You could probably get away with a little bit less than that, but that's not perfect either.
Because
right?
the seeds are still there, the roots are still there, and they can come back.
Yeah, if there's a perennial plant, it could maybe. I mean, it's not likely to survive because it's getting cut off from all food, so the plant's dying even before it can go into dormancy there. And plus, with black tarp, it's cooking. You know, like in the summertime, that ground's getting to. I remember one time my wife and I went camping, and I like to put a regular tarp under the tent when we camp, you know. And so we got back home. I was cleaning stuff off. I was spraying all the dirt off the thing or whatever with the hose, and I let it dry in my yard for like 20 minutes. It killed everything. Whoops. So I mean, it gets pretty hot under those tarps, and that does some of the killing. But there's some species that they can kind of hang on and persist. And so like Dutch white clover, I did 2 thorough killings. I got a Dutch white clover problem. Dandelions, they're still there. Wood sorrel.
Are dandelions, no mow with the
Yeah,
dandelions?
yeah.
Is that actually productive? I've heard.
For honeybees, it's not as productive for most native bees. So
Right.
honeybees aren't
But
native at
that
all.
being said, there's way worse things than dandelions.
Let them have it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, like I did an unseasonable mowing of my prairie this last weekend because I just had so many dandelions coming out. I was like, I can't let all these go to seed, or that's what this will be. It'll be a field of dandelions. It's just a management decision you kind of have to make and see what the results are. So I would say get 2 killings though, because like you said, there's seed stock from those years of those plants going to seed and those weeds or maybe even turf grasses. They drop those seeds down in the soil and they just lay dormant until they get their chance. Well, when you kill off all the existing plants, now they have their chance, so they grow. And so you got to kill those off too. So general rule, get 2 killings and then go ahead. And I would recommend have that kill cycle, do your first killing in the spring, your second in the late summer, early fall when you get that second green up, and then be ready to plant for either a frost seeding or a dormant seeding in November.
When
December.
people call, you kind of walk them through a lot of this, don't you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I feel like there's so many intricacies to it. Every case is unique.
Yep.
Every property is unique. Every land, brings me to my next question. Do the grass seeds need to be localized seeds to really be considered native?
Oh, great question.
That's an excellent
Thank
question.
you.
So yeah,
That's an excellent question.
We were
Wow,
just
did you hear
at
that,
a-
Al?
There's a lot of minutia.
Oh
behind
yeah,
that. Yes.
we were just sitting in a seminar
Okay,
where
9 minutes.
9
guys.
minutes. I got it. So localized to native. Yes, there is. If you look at USDA range maps, you can kind of see where they've actually found those plants and where they expect those plants were
Right.
from. They just didn't. No one documented they saw them from there.
I think the Ladybird Johnson website even.
Yes, that
has
one also does a great job. USDA, that one, and then Prairie Moon does a great job of the range maps. But then, so that's a easy way to start. And you could just Google, was so and so local to my state? But even within that, you've got eco regions or ecotypes that do matter, and I say that with an asterisk to an extent. If you've got an acre and you said, I'm going to go all out, I'm going to make the highest quality, most accurate prairie I possibly can, then yes, you probably want to look for ecotype. Ecotype gets way more expensive because it gets, a lot less, there's a lot less supply for it, right? For your region, you might have only one person who grows those species for your region or less. And so we sat through this seminar, and the lady basically explained, it was very well researched. If you go too far north, too far south, too far east or west, we notice a difference in the flowering, things like that, a very minimal difference. and the difference is random. So it's not like every species, it's okay to go south, but you don't want to bring them further north. I'll be frank, I'll take habitat wherever I can get it. And if you order seed from Georgia from us, we work with partners of people who grow seed out on the East Coast. I'm going to source it from there. I'll ship our seed.
If we can.
Yes, if we can.
Because sometimes it's not always available.
Yeah, that's true.
So they call you to buy seed and you say, where do you live? And then they say, I'm in Georgia. And you say, I've got a partner in Georgia that raises this seed. We're gonna do the transfer this way, so you're getting local seed.
Yes, and I'll do that. I'll go a state or two over. I mean, I'm probably not going to send our seed to Texas, but I would, bottom of Missouri. Zones. Yeah, I try to be general, and then I just if I get a feel for someone on the phone and I just want habitat, and you could tell, hey, they're looking for a cheaper price, those kinds of things. Then I know they're not as worried about ecotype. And I would, instead of trying to convince them that they should be and that they should pay more for ecotype and come across really salesman-y, I'm going to meet them where they're at and be grateful that habitat's getting on the ground.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. Are there any prairie species that are facing extinction today?
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
And there's a bunch that went extinct that no one ever documented.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think the
would we even recognize the names, because you guys talk about some of these names and how bad
there's a
you
lot
guys
of them
came to our live show.
We don't even know
down at Pheasant Fest, and I was trying to say the genus names of some of these things. You guys had to be like, what a goon!
I can see Nick laughing in the background. Nick and Ken laughing in the background.
Man, dude. Well, I called Canada anemone. It's Canada anemone. I said anemone for like 2 years. Nobody corrected me. And then finally, our good friend Laura Walter was like, hey, it's an enemy. And I was like,
think here's the thing. Most people don't know. So like, I think I trust him, so we'll just go with it. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. And so there definitely are hemiparasites, which need another plant to grow. We're already struggling to get prairie on the ground, let alone get plants that need those plants to grow on them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got kind of a symbiotic relationship. Those are really struggling. There are specifically woodland and sandy species. They're hard because they're hard to grow. Yeah. And so when a producer's trying to grow them and they put 6 years into it and they can't get it to grow they go, and they throw up their hands and then they stick with wild bergamot or something else they know how to grow already. So there's a bunch of those, but not the ones that I could name off the top of my head, not as much. No.
Yeah, they're definitely there. And I mean, the price generally reflects how difficult it is to grow for one, but that also plays into like how prevalent is it on the landscape, because, there's not those exact conditions. I think a good general way to look at it is if you have species that blend over to multiple endangered ecosystems, so think of like wetlands and prairie. If you got a wet prairie, some of those species are abundant. They do really well, like swamp milkweed or a lot of different sedges. But there's some other species in there that, both of those are endangered ecosystems, and so that plant needs that exact condition. It's probably not going to be here if it's even still here. And that's the saddest case, I think, is it'll be impossible to recreate what a true prairie once was in a lot of places, because a lot of those species have blinked out.
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for driving all the way up here to sit down, drink a cup of coffee, and talk about the earth. I think you guys do a very good job of it every single week, multiple times on your podcast. That's why I tune in. I feel like I could sit here for a couple more hours and we could talk about things and try to wrap our head around it. Ultimately, we have to have a connection to the land to be able to make a difference, right? I feel like that's such an important thing. So if you don't own land, it doesn't mean you can't affect it. I know we all leave a footprint on this earth that will last forever.
Mm-hmm.
The decisions we make,
it's a good way to say it.
The decisions we make will affect people for generations to come. And that's something that I think is important to just think about. If nothing else, just think about that.
Yeah.
And I love Scott Rawls saying, I wake up every morning and try to make this world a better place for wildlife and wild places. And I wish we all woke up and felt the exact same way. Nicholas, you do a great job of inspiring us with something. Leave us with something. Last time it was make a smile.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you with a smile, and that is
Yeah.
something that can change the world. Is there anything else that you've been holding on to lately?
I
wanna leave us
mentioned it
with?
earlier. Margin. It's very important. And some of the most ingenious things that have ever happened on this earth by humans happened in the margin. Some of the coolest landscapes happened in the margins. And when we stretch ourselves too thin, we have a very negative impact, not only on ourselves and the people around us, but the landscape. You know, we start looking at how much can we take. We're tired all the time. It's just not a better time. So having margin in areas of our life and being okay with the boredom and the tenseness that comes with that goes against our culture, it's really taken shape. Ruthless elimination of hurry.
I was just going to say the ruthless elimination of hurry.
Great
Yeah.
book.
It just popped into my head, and then you said it. My goodness, is that something? When you said it a couple weeks ago, I was like, I listened to that. I
Yes.
I
Oh,
can't read
good.
very well. I can't focus. So I listened. But I listened to that, and it's true.
Yeah.
Hurry is just killing us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The Prairie Farm Podcast. Check it out. This kind of deep thinking or just thought-provoking conversation
Appreciate that.
comes up all the time on your show. You have excellent guests. You guys also are keeping habitat on this earth, and we thank you for that. If
Appreciate
anybody's interested in planting a few pollinators, it can be a tiny little space, but you can make it happen, and you can, one little piece at a time, make a difference on your property. I'm already thinking about where I can add something to mine. There's room for it somewhere. I got to
Yep.
find it. The Hoksey Native Seeds website is going to connect you. Probably if you call there, you're going to talk to Nick.
Yeah.
Most likely.
I
yep.
get that quite a bit. Like, wait, you're the guy on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yes,
like,
I
yeah,
am.
that's me.
He's in a bathrobe, unshaven.
It reminds me I need to be careful what I say.
Right?
Oh,
Hey,
man.
don't hold back. Keep
Thanks.
doing what you guys are doing.
appreciate
I
that.
love it. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flush Podcast.